What's up, my people, and welcome to my review of Freelance, a film that kind of surpassed me. It was something that was kind of like out there in the wind that I had no idea about. It was a limited release in theaters. It did hit theaters, and it was a very limited release. It's one of those independent films, but the thing that kind of enticed me about it, and I know it shouldn't really be that much of an important factor, but being a film buff and a sort of a reviewer, but even though I don't consider myself one, I kind of had to give this a chance because of the director who did one of my favorite Liam Neeson films in Taken. So, yes, I know that really shouldn't matter because just because a director does a film that you really like, that means he or she is going to keep it up. But I just had to check this thing out, and like I said, I had no idea of this film's existence. I found out that it came out last year. Like I said, it was a limited release. And as soon as it hit store shelves, as soon as I put it up at my store, that's like the first time I actually noticed it. And then I started looking at it, looking at the back of the box cover, and it's like, John Cena. Okay, it sounds interesting. I'll give it a shot. So I just finished watching it, and it was okay. It was alright. So the film essentially follows this ex-Special Forces operative who takes this job as security detail for this journalist who goes to this island to where she interviews this dictator, all the while a military coup breaks out, which forces them into hiding into the jungle and tries to survive. Rolling into this, I had no idea what I was getting into. I have not seen a single trailer, a single advertisement, and like I said, it was a very limited release theatrically, and that to me right there is red flag number one. But after watching the film, it's one of those that, yes, you can definitely tell that it is low budget, and it's one of those independent films that you can see why it wasn't really praised upon. It wasn't really advertised as much, and it's like the studio gave me that impression that, well, let's just put this in as limited theaters as we can because we don't know how good it is, we don't have much faith in it, and blah blah blah, so on and so forth. So again, that's a definite red flag to me. But like I said, the only thing that kind of pushed me towards this was John Cena, because I think he's really, really awesome. And the director of this, who directed the first Taken, The Gunman, From Paris with Love, films that I actually really did enjoy. Director Pierre Morel is one of those directors that I wish would get more recognition. It's not one of those directors that I come across that much. But when I do, I actually enjoy his stuff. I actually enjoy what he brings to cinema. So with him giving something like this, and no offense to the filmmakers and the writer, I hear that this is an actual first-time writer, so you gotta start somewhere. But a guy like Pierre Morel, I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly. If I'm not, I apologize. They need to give him something bigger and more to do. But anyway, moving on. This wasn't bad, but I could definitely tell why it was very limited. So starting off the positives for Freelance, I do gotta say, John Cena, he's John Cena. I mean, everything he plays is pretty much the same. People will argue and say that John Cena, he plays a stereotype type of character that's the same. He never changes, but that's his acting style. Same thing can be said about The Rock and Vin Diesel and all them. So with Freelance and John Cena's character, I still liked him. It doesn't really matter if he plays the same character. If you're a fan of him, you're going to like him. So, to each his own. But I thought he did a really good job here. I thought he brought a distinct way about him like he always does. And I really did enjoy his character. He basically plays this family man who's going through a little bit of a rough patch, a little bit of a family drama back home, and then you find out that he was a Special Forces operative at one point, and then something bad happens, and then they just do this whole thing with his character to where he ends up being a lawyer, and then he gets trapped in this kind of, as he calls it, and I'm paraphrasing here, family trap and just the normal life. And he thinks he's a failure because of it, and I really did like that aspect to it. Bottom line, I thought he did a really good job. I thought he did really well. The chemistry between Alison Brie and John Cena was pretty enjoyable. At first, they couldn't really get along. Alison Brie plays the journalist that he tries to protect on this jungle in this foreign country, or wherever they said that they were at, Paldonia or something like that. I forget what it was. But I thought their chemistry was pretty good. At first, they couldn't really quite get along, and because Alison Brie's character was sort of like this prissy, like everything handed to her on a silver plate type of character, stereotype type of character, to where John Cena was like, another one of these. I thought they played off each other real well. As I was going through Alison Brie's filmography, I knew that girl looked familiar because she was in Scream 4, which I have actually popped in here in like the last week or so. So I knew that girl looked familiar. But yeah, anyway, that's the only other thing that I've seen that girl in. But I thought she was pretty good in this. For a low-budget movie, yes, it was kind of a low budget and it was very limited release. It still looked like it was shot really well. There was some action sequences, which I'll get more into later in the not-so-nice portion of this review, but there was certain portion of the action sequences that actually was pretty well done. I actually liked the visual effects and just the all-out feel that this film was filmed at, you know, especially with the jungle scenes and just the scenery. I actually thought that was done really well. You know, especially for a low-budget movie, I thought that was done really well. Like I said, this wasn't one of those terrible movies, but as I'm getting ready to jump into the negatives, there are some aspects to this where I definitely see why this wasn't really one of those movies that you can jump for joy and holler and say that was the best summer flick ever, that was the best big tub of popcorn flick ever. I can definitely see why people would kind of like snicker at that. So as I dive into my negatives, I felt like this story was a little bit too generic. This is done from a writer who is a first-time writer, so no fault of his own. You gotta start somewhere. But I felt like the story should have kind of benefited a little more. It just felt a little too generic, and I couldn't quite get into what they were trying to accomplish. And as far as the action scenes goes, this is a very tamed movie. This is where the budget really shows its head a little bit because, as I said, it is kind of a low-budget movie and it really kind of shows. Because of the pacing, it does get slow there a lot. You get action sequences sprinkled, but that's all they are. They're just like sprinkles of salt, just here and there. Not enough. For a movie that looks like this, that just goes to show you that the marketing department, they just want you to look at it and just, hey, come to us. And that's kind of what the vibe that I've gotten before I watched this movie, right when I saw the box cover. I mean, it roped me in. I give the marketing department props for that. But it's really not all that. That's all I can say. It's very tamed. The pacing is kind of slow. And it does take a while. It does feel sluggish in most areas. Not to mention that this is an action comedy. And yes, I'm going to start to sound like a broken record here. I apologize, but the comedy just did not work for me. Some of the dialogue and some of the comedic tropes that was coming across just fell flat. And that I actually expected. It just didn't do anything for me. Shocker, right? A lot of it just came off as awkward and it just didn't really resonate with me like whatsoever. A lot of it felt so weird and it's like that portion of it they just wasn't really trying and it came off as weird. That's what else can I say? It just came off as weird. Despite all that, this wasn't the most terrible thing I've seen. It wasn't that bad. Believe me, I've seen worse. But Freelance, it had its moments. I can definitely tell why somebody would just disregard this film completely. I would totally understand that. But it had its moments. Was it something to blow my mind? Was it something that I could just recommend to anybody? No, not really. But it's something to just have fun with and just play in the background, whatever, and just have a good time with it, despite its flaws. It was fine. It was fun enough, but I was on the fence. So Freelance, what was your thoughts on it? Have you seen this yet? Are you a fan of this? Did you even know about this at all? Or is this your first time hearing about this? Or for those of you who have actually seen it, what was your thoughts on it? Did you like it or did you hate it? Did you think it was the most awfulest thing that was ever made? Let me comment down below and give me your thoughts. Thank you so much, guys, as always, for watching this. I really do appreciate it. Like, subscribe, comment, and share. Make sure to click that bell icon so you don't miss a thing and set it to all. And I will see you on the next one. Peace.